Hey guys, what's going on? It's Don here from Novaspirit Tech and welcome back. Now this is going to be part 2 of my NAS build. And if you missed that video, you could check it out right over here. Now in this video, we're actually going to be installing the operating system and all the software to make it a server. Otherwise, it's just a computer with a lot of hard drives. So let's get started. So to begin, I want to thank Micro Center for sponsoring this build. They're the ones that actually provided most of the parts for this setup, and I'll leave all the links down in the description below for that. And if you do want to check out more computer parts or electronics, be sure to check out their website at microcenter.com, or you could visit their stores. Now, it actually took me some time to figure out what I wanted to do with this server and where I wanted to head. Now, I finally decided to go straight Debian and install all the software myself. So the operating system of choice is going to be Debian, and what we're going to be installing into this guy is a NAS, obviously, RAID 5 setup, Plex, graphic drivers, a Steam caching library, which means like if you download Steam games, it'll actually store all the installation files here, and then anytime that you want to install it somewhere else, it'll just pull it from this server, which I'm very excited about. And also UrBackUp. I could do full PC imaging backup onto this guy as well. And I do want to do a dashboard on this guy, and I did show you guys some teasers of what I have going on. Now I decided to actually make that another video because there's so much configurations to get that going between the host and the client, where I decided let's just take a full video to do that and show you guys how to set up everything, how to configure the whole dashboard and everything else. And might as well, while we're at it, I might want to put on a Raspberry Pi and put up on a screen against the wall or something. So that will be, I guess, part 3 or just a separate video in general just to do the dashboard setup. So let's get started with installation on Debian. Now right now I have a USB plugged into the system, and I'm just going to boot from a generic U disk and hopefully get into the menus. Now, should I do a graphic install or install? Graphic install gave me a little bit of issue before because I'm trying to do HDMI capture. If that happens to be the same case, then yeah, it's gonna be an issue. If that happens to be the same case, you see, I'm just gonna do the non-graphical install. So I swapped it over to the UEFI boot, and that seemed to work, so I'm just going to keep it like this. The installation is pretty simple. I'm just going to go through the main prompts. American English, it detects everything. My network is connected just so if it needs to fetch files from the internet, it can. Now this motherboard does have a Wi-Fi card built in. I'm not going to install it right now because I'm not using Wi-Fi, but you can always install it after the fact. Now I decided to call this guy NAS-Plex. You could always give it like a really cool name. I couldn't think of anything right now, so I'm just going to leave it as NAS-Plex. I know, so original. I'm going to leave the domain name blank, and here we could actually enter our passwords. Be sure to make a new user and enter the password for that as well. So there you have it. Eastern time. Now, this one I'm going to set up to use entire disk, and it's going to be the M.2. So you see how it's 256 gigabytes, and I'm going to set it up all file in one partition. Now here I actually have a RAID set up already because I was playing around with this configuration before I made this video. But here you can actually set up your RAID here. So what I'm going to do is configure software RAID, and I'm going to have to write changes to the M.2 because I'm moving to a new area. I'm going to delete my old RAID. See how I have a RAID 5? So you could skip this step completely because you don't have to delete your old RAID. But I'm going to delete this RAID and just start from fresh like I'm creating a brand new one. What I want to do is select RAID 5. This has to be number of active devices. So it's going to be 4. And then I just choose the drives that I want. Once you're done, you hit finish. And there we have it, our 6 terabyte RAID 5. Okay, now that we have our RAID 6, all I have to do is just go all the way to the bottom, finish partitioning, and write. That's it. Once it installs the base system, Debian will finish installing, and then we'll just catch up with that because it's going to take a few minutes. Okay, over here, we're just going to install, if there's any updates or anything, it's going to install it at that time. So I'm actually going to use ftp.us.org because I'm in the US. And do I have any proxies? No. And that's it. It's going to download all the files. But the next step, it's going to ask you, do you want to install a desktop? Do you want to install OpenSSH? The only thing you really need is OpenSSH. But if you do want to install a desktop, so you have a GUI, and when you hook it up to a monitor, you can as well. All right, so here's what I was talking about. You could actually install XFCE and all this other stuff. Again, I don't really need to, but it doesn't take much space just to have it, I guess. But definitely you have to put SSH server. Now, if you need a print server, you could always enable this. You don't have to use a print server. I'm not gonna hook up a printer to this, so I don't need cups or anything. I don't need it. So I'm just gonna wipe that out. So next thing, hit continue. It's gonna install the rest of the software. It's gonna download whatever, and I'm just gonna let this go now. That actually went by really quick. So I'm gonna hit OK. Unplug the installation media in 1 second. I had this issue before. I think it's because I don't have the graphic drivers installed, but I'm not too worried about it. All I need to know is that I'm able to log in. And there we have it, guys. Debian is installed. Let's see if I do sudo su. Yeah, I'm not in the sudo file, so I think I have to log in as root. So let me go into root, go in here, and I think it's user mod -ag sudoer done. Sudoers? Oh, it's sudo done. So let me exit this, go back into done, and let's do sudo app update. There we have it. Now we have access to sudo. So that's very important because you don't want to use the root account to do anything. You want to use your own account with sudo access. That way it's a little bit more secure. Now, first thing we need to do, which I just did, was update everything that we need to grab. And since we have our RAID set up, let's see if it is active. So ls proc md stat. It's not ls, it's cat. And it is active. Now that we examined that the drives are in RAID and everything's there, we're gonna have to make a file partition, which is gonna be ext4. So to do that, we do mkfs. Well, I had to do sudo mkfs.ext4/dev/md0. This will actually format the drive. Does it blink? Oh yeah, look, it turns green and everything. This will actually format all the drives and allow us to mount it and start using it. Oh wow, that was pretty quick. So now that I formatted it, I should actually have a partition called md1. So let's see, ls dev md0, and I'm going to do another sudo blkid. Now that I ran the sudo blkid block ID, you can see right in the middle it says dev/md0, and it gives you the UUID. That's what I actually needed. So to grab that, I'm going to do, it would be easier if I just sudo it. So sudo su. And I'm going to hop in here and go into blkid, pipe that into grep, and I'm only looking for dev/md0, and then I'm going to pipe that into t, append, and extfs tab. I'm not that great with all the swatches, but I'm pretty sure this is going to work. It's going to append that into the end of the fs tab. And then all I have to do is nano etc fs tab. And you see how it's on the bottom right now? I don't need the front bits. All I need is the remove this quote, remove this quote. I know there's definitely a much easier command to do it, so it cleans it up a bit, but off the top of my head, I don't remember. So I'm going to do serve pool. That's where I'm going to actually mount the file on. Did I do tab? Serve pool. And it's also going to be an ext4. And then I'm going to do no a time, read and write 0, 0. And then I'm going to exit this. Now I got to go make that folder before I mount this. So I'm going to do make dir /srv, I think it's p -p /srv/pool, and it's going to make that folder for me. Now if I do mount -a, it's going to mount that into that folder. And if there was an error, it would have popped out an error. So if I go to cd srv pool, yeah, that's it, lost and found, because that folder, the RAID created that lost and found file. It's in there. We're all set. That's it. So now we got our RAID set up. It's mounted, and it's going to auto mount every time it boots. We are good with the storage. Next up, we're going to move over to our network file share. This way we could actually utilize it. So there's multiple ways you could set this up. You could actually leave it like this and just serve the folder pool. Or if you wanted to separate content where you want this file to only be movies and this to be files and stuff like that, and you can't like kind of crossbreed or intersect with each other, you could make multiple folders in here. Now I'm going to actually create a folder called data store, and that will allow me to share only whatever is in data store. And then I'm going to also make other folders in here like cache for Steam cache, so I won't see it in my data store. And I'll make some other folders that I need to hide away, like my images that I'm going to be backing up, like my full PC images. I'm going to make a folder for that. I'm going to make dir cache, and also make dir UrBackUp. That way I have all my folder structures set up and they won't see each other. Now to set up sharing, I'm going to exit back out to my username because I don't want to stay in root. Sudo apt install Samba. It's 70 megabytes. Hit yes. I'm going to let that download. And no, I don't want it to configure my DHCP like that. Actually, for DHCP, you could actually use NetPlan, which I believe comes with Debian, but I usually set it through my router. So my router actually has a full MAC address set up, and then it will automatically assign an IP to this MAC address, which I find a lot better than using, the forced IP address that you have to set up over there. Now, I am going to go to sudo nano etc samba SMB config. You see that? And I'm going to head down and actually add a new area, and I'm going to call this data store. Now, in here, this is where you add your attributes. Now, I'm not going to go as crazy as creating an individual account for everything for more security and stuff. This is just going to be a guest account that basically anybody in my house could access. We're going to do path equals srv pool / data store. That's the folder we made, right? Then force group equals no group. Here we're going to do create mask equals 0755. Create, no, actually not create, directory mask equals 0755. Browsable equals yes. Writeable equals yes. And guest okay equals yes. That's it. Once you set that up, you will have your little tiny share. So we would have to do sudo systemctl restart smbd. And I should be able to see my share now over at my other computer. So we are set up with this. I do have to fix a folder structure issue. So what we're going to do here, before we finish off this up, we're going to do sudo chown no body no group /srv /pool /data store. Now that way that folder is writable now by nobody and no group, and then when we write onto it with our guest account, it's going to be nobody no group, so it's going to work out that way. All right, now that we set up our Samba share, we're moving on to the next one, which is setting up our graphic drivers. Now if you don't have a graphic card on here, you could skip this step. This is where we're going to install Nvidia. Okay, so for Nvidia graphic drivers, first thing we need to do is allow us to use the contribute and non-free. So I'm going to do sudo nano etc apt sources.list, and in here I'm actually going to add contrib and non-free to everything. Okay, save that, and sudo apt update. It's going to grab more sources, and now I should be able to do this, which is sudo apt install Nvidia detect. This little software actually tells you what graphic card you have and what version you should be downloading. So sudo Nvidia detect tells me that I have an Nvidia Corporation Quattro P400, which is correct. And the Nvidia driver is recommended is just Nvidia driver. So I'm going to do sudo apt install Nvidia driver. 388 megabytes, hit OK or yes, and I'm going to let that go through. Okay, now that that's all done downloading, we still have a bunch of stuff to download. So we're not done here yet. We still need to be able to download a couple of stuff so we could actually encode videos. So sudo apt install Nvidia SMI, and SMI will actually help us detect if our graphic card is actually working or not. libx264 dev libx265 dev lib swscal scale dev Nvidia CUDA dev ysam lib numa dev lib mp3 dev git we're going to need also lib opus dev and pkg config. This will take a while, but it needs to be done. Okay, we are done with installing Nvidia. So let's reboot the computer because it added some stuff to the kernel. So we're going to do a sudo reboot. All right, and we are back. So if I want to check if the graphic card actually got installed, I could just do sudo Nvidia SMI. And you could see that my graphic card is actually listed. And you could see the RAM usage and all that other stuff. Now, if something is being transcoded, you would actually see the process running on the bottom. We can't see anything now because we don't even have Plex installed. So let's get onto that. So to install Plex, you can head over to the website and try to find their latest version for Deb, which I already got. So that's what I'm going to be doing right now. All right, now that I downloaded it, all I have to do is sudo dpkg-i Plex media server. That's just going to install Plex. And that is it. Just in case if I didn't install something, I could do sudo apt install -f just to make sure everything got installed. Moving on, now that we got Plex installed, we'll configure that a little bit later. Next up, we're going to be installing Dockers. Now, why didn't I install a Plex as a Docker? It's because I need to use the GPU, and using a Docker, even though it is possible, there's a lot of configurations to go just to get the GPU to pass through to the Docker. So instead of doing that, I just natively install Plex onto the server. Everything else from here on, I could install as a Docker, so I could have it self-contained, and I don't have to worry about, different versions of Python or whatever I have to worry about. So let's install Docker into this guy. First thing we need to do is grab a bunch of packages. It's a lot of packages. So sudo apt-get install apt transport https ca certificates curl, just to make sure. I don't know if I have that, gnupg2 and software properties commit. Okay, so now we're going to add a key just so we could do apt-get install Docker, which is much more easier to update in the future. So we're going to do curl -fssl https download.docker.com/linux/debian/gpg, and then we're just going to pipe that into sudo apt key add and a dash at the end. Once it says OK, that means it grabbed it. So now we have to add this to our app sources. So sudo add apt repository deb, and we want this to be AMD 64 https://download.docker/linux/Debian. And if you don't know what this release is, you could always just use this way, lsb_release-cs stable. Oop, I forgot to close the quote. I'll close it now. There you go. Now I could do sudo app update, and it should grab the latest release from there. Oh man, I forgot to put the .com in Docker. All right, I just went back into the source list just so I could add .com. Sudo app update. There you go. So now we could install Docker. So sudo app install docker-ce. So to make sure everything gets refreshed with the system, I'm just going to do another sudo reboot. Okay, let's log back in. Now it's time to get our Steam content library cache working. So there's a software on GitHub made by LAN Cache Net, and it's called Monolith, and also LAN Cache DNS. Now you could use the LAN Cache DNS if you want to, but if you have a router like mine where you could actually put in your own DNS, you could do it that way as well. So what I'm going to do is grab it. So how to use this, I was going to do sudo docker pull, and then you would put in what you want, which is LAN Cache Net / monolithic. Now it's going to grab that software, which is so easy. I like using Docker for this reason. Software is so easy to deploy and it's self-contained. All right, now that it's on the latest, we could basically just run it. So to do that, we do sudo docker run restart unless stopped. So this way it will automatically boot up with the system and it won't stop. Even though if the service gets hung up or it crashes, it's going to restart itself unless I stop the system itself. Name, I'm going to call this LAN cache. Run this as detached so we don't see it on our console right here. And where are we going to put this? And it's going to be srv pool cache. And inside there, it's going to be cache data. And inside there, I'm actually going to call this for logs. It's going to be server pool cache / logs. And it's going to be cache logs for port 80. And the software we're using is LAN Cache Net monolithic latest. Oh, I'm losing my mind right now. It's no dash. Okay, so that's it. Our cache library is working. Now, how does it actually work is that when Steam tries to connect to a game through port 80, this will intercept it. Now, for that to actually work, you would actually need some sort of DNS kind of override, you could say. So you could actually do it on your PC manually, doing through the host file, where anytime where it tries to connect to, I think it was called downloads.steampower.com, it'll actually point to this server IP instead of actually pointing to the Steam server. And then this will actually go back out to the Steam server itself. But there's an easier way, which is installing LAN Cache DNS. This will actually create that DNS field that you need, so you don't have to configure anything on your network other than to point to this computer as a DNS server. So we're going to use that route, which is a lot easier. So to do that, we're going to have to install it. So we're going to do sudo docker pull LAN cache net / LAN cache DNS. So let me clear the screen so you guys could see. So we're going to do sudo docker run restart unless stopped name LAN cache -DNS detach, and we're going to use port 53 UDP traffic, and we're going to execute use generic cache true, execute another thing called LAN cache _IP equals whatever this IP is, which I know, 192.168.105.106, and it's going to be LAN cache net / LAN cache -DNS latest. That's it. It created its own DNS server. Now, default is if it doesn't see Steam, Uplay, any of those services, it will actually just redirect it through 8.8.8.8, which is what my network is. You could also change that, but again, I'll leave all the links down in the description so you know what configurations you need. I'm not going to go too detailed into this. This is how I'm setting up my system, and all that other stuff is written up in those wikis, so you could be able to redirect the traffic if you needed to. Now, last but not least, we are going to be installing my backup system, which is UrBackUp. Again, sudo docker pull uroni/UrBackUp server. It's going to pull the latest UrBackUp server. And if you haven't seen a video that I've done on this before, I'll leave a link right here so you can head over there and check it out, how UrBackUp actually works. So I'm going to do docker sudo docker run restart unless stopped detach name UrBackUp server. Where is the location it's going to be? It's going to be server pool /UrBackUp. Remember those folders we made earlier? And it's going to be called backups. And then we're going to do that again. SRV. This is for the logs. So SRV pool UrBackUp and var backup. And here's what you really kind of need to know, which I have written down. The ports 55413 to 55415 55413 to 55415, and port 35623 35623, and that's for UDP. And you just type URONI/UrBackUp server, and that's it. Now I got the backup server working, the DNS working, the Steam cache working, Samba, which is my network share, working, my RAID 5 working, Plex is working, and Nvidia is working. Now it's just a matter of testing everything out because I got everything all installed. So let's move on to that part. All right, so the first thing I'm going to transfer is this file over here, which is about 200 megabytes. I'm going to copy this over and see how long it's going to take. All right, it seems like I'm getting full gigabit. Maybe I should have tried a longer file, but I know it's hitting that 111 mark. So the next thing I'm going to test is our Plex. Okay, so from here, I'm actually going to do sudo Nvidia SMI watch. And every 2 seconds, this is going to refresh. So when I play this file and transcode it, you see how this shows up now on the bottom? So my transcoder is working. All right. Nice. Okay, so I know that hardware transcoding is working. There you go, no process found. Perfect. Next up, we have to try our Steam. What I'm going to do over here is install this. Hang on, let's cancel this and go to the logs. So as soon as I hit install, right, and then I hit next, agree, it's going to install, and you can see that this is picking it up. Now it says miss over here. You see how it says miss? That means it's not, it doesn't have the file here. So let's take a look at the download. As you can see, it's peaking at 11.8, 11.7. All right, now that it's all done and it's installed, I'm going to actually go back to my library. What was that game that I just downloaded? Magica 2. I'm going to uninstall it. Okay, and install it again. Hit next, agree. Now I'm going to wait until that file generation happens. Hit download, and watch this. You see how it says hit instead of miss? And look how fast it's downloading from my server. Way much more than what I was getting from the internet. And that's the whole point, you know, so I could cache all my libraries and make sure that I could download the game if I uninstalled it and just redo it. Yeah, that was quick, much quicker. Imagine downloading GTA, which is 50 gigs, and just storing it over there. All right, it seems like everything is working. The only thing I'm not testing right now is my backup, but that will, I know it works. Your backup will work, but I don't have anything to use it with right now, so I'm not going to test that. But otherwise, the Steam is working, the network is working, Plex is working, transcoding is working. Everything seems to be working as of yet. Now, I'm not here to troubleshoot problems. I mean, I just went through the process of what I would do on my server. You guys might do it in a different way or might not even use Docker. I don't know. This is how I did it, and it seems everything worked as it should. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it was a lot, and there was a lot of questions you guys did ask me as far as the previous video. How many can this transcode? I was able to get up to like 8 or 9 on a 1080 stream, and for 4K I was able to do about 3 streams. 4 was pushing it. And keep in mind that since I unlocked it with the patch drivers, once you run out of RAM, it kind of kills that stream. And in order to fix that stream of that person that ran out of RAM, he would have to actually restart the video again. And hopefully there's enough RAM for him that time. So yeah, there are limitations to that, but most of my videos are at 1080. I'm starting to move over to 4K, but I don't have that much people that streams on my server anyway, so it's only me and maybe my cousin or something like that. But either way, it does do multiple streams and it handles it really well. Next up, another question was, can this guy breathe? There's actually a hole here on the side of the server where the graphic card actually has plenty of room to breathe, and also on the opposite side, so the CPU has plenty of room to breathe. So yeah, it's actually pretty good. As far as wattage goes, now if I am just idling with all the services in place, the stream caching and all this other stuff, it idles around 55 watts. Now if I was to use the CPU to actually transcode, it will take about 113 watts. And if I was to use the GPU to transcode, it's about 70 watts. So if you add it all together, it's actually much more cost efficient to run the GPU than to run the CPU doing the same thing. Now, do I plan to add other services in the future? Yes, definitely. I just don't know what off the top of my head yet. Maybe an antivirus software or something like that, but I will be adding more to this, and it's going to be really Dockers. I'm just going to install Dockers and then just load up all the stuff that I need to use. Well, that's it for me, guys. If you enjoyed this video, please hit that like button. If you guys got any questions about this, hit it up in the comments below. If you guys are new to this channel, consider subscribing, also hitting that bell notification icon so you know when the next video is going to be out. And as I say in my nerd cave, hack till it hurts.